Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Google Hangout, the boxing hangout that we have here after the fights that we've been talking about. And we're going to talk all about the Showtime Championship fights that I participated in. If you want to talk, I don't know what happened in all the HBO matches, but the other folks on this hangout may, and also you can participate by talking to me about that. But the fact is, we have some great folks to talk to. Let me first introduce you to a gentleman who's a good friend of mine, and who is the co-founder of the Undisputed Champion Network, a new boxing content network that's going to be launching soon, and also a gentleman who helps out the United States Intercollegiate Boxing Association, my good friend, movie producer, and boxing raconteur, Art Horan. Hi, Art. How are you?
Hi, Al. Thank you for that introduction. A pleasure to be here.
Did I win the battle to do your eulogy? If I should be around after you're here?
Yes, as long as you.
And I know there was a big competition for that, right?
Not really. You're my only friend. You're my only friend, Al.
No, you're a good man. Hey, thank you for joining us. We're and of course Dan Parks with us. Dan, let's take a look at you and see you. You're of course the founder of our Hangouts.
How are you doing, everybody? Hope everybody enjoyed the fights tonight. Thanks again, Al. Great job tonight.
Well, thank you. It was actually, this card tonight was shorter by only about a minute or two than most Jerry Lewis telethons. Right? I tell Art I wanted to say give until it hurts when we finally got to the end of it. But there was a lot of fun things. And as we review these fights, of course, we had a title change hands with Sean Porter beating Devin Alexander in an upset by decision. Everything tonight was by decision, hence the Jerry Lewis telethon length. Of course, we saw Pauli Malignaggi perform exceedingly well in a fight in which Zab Judah did not really show up and had some issues offensively. And we also saw a draw between Saki Obika and Anthony Durrell, in which a title did not change hands, and a terrific performance by Arislandi Lara in beating Austin Trout. Now, Art, you watched the fights. Let's deal with the Saki Obika fight. Now, by the way, Dan, this is where I should tell people too. Of course, they can send their questions in, correct? And we'll be answering them as they come in.
We got them, and they've got the link already in place. They should have been able to see that. That's on Google Plus, and they can come in. And we have some also that were already asked from earlier tonight that we'll get to.
Okay, perfect. We'll get to all those in a moment or two. And first, Art, you were watching the fights.
Yeah, I did. I watched Al. First, to address
Let's go fight by fight. The Bika-Durrell fight was very awkward, and Anthony Durrell very distressed by the decision. I personally thought it was a fairly close fight. Did you think it was close?
I thought it was close, but I did think that Durrell won the fight.
Yeah, I gave it to him by 1 point.
Yeah, 1 point. I couldn't understand some of the judges' scoring. I think they had giving consideration to the fact that he lost 2 points.
Right.
One basically for the 10-8 round, and then for the foul. For the point,
right.
For the point. And I'm not a big fan of his style. I thought Durrell did a very nice job, was very poised, and hit him with some very big overhand rights, and I think in that one round could have really taken him out. Maybe took his foot off the pedal a little bit.
Probably gave some rounds away during the course of the middle to later rounds, or he would have probably won on those scorecards, I'm guessing. Right.
And maybe
I do understand his frustration.
Yes. Absolutely, and maybe he was a little too lackadaisical. I mean, it was amazing how composed he seemed to me. It was a big fight for him. This guy's been out of circulation for a while.
It's a good point. And he had defeated cancer and had come back from a motorcycle accident. And he'd never been 12 rounds, so that was also something weighing against him. But I do understand his frustration. But it was he gave a lot of those middle rounds. He allowed Bika to get in, and Bika does look like more of a shop-worn fighter than he was a couple of fights ago.
Yes.
Those wide punches are getting him into more and more trouble. And I'm sure among the 168-pounders, they're lining up more to fight Bika than any of the other champions.
What's next for a guy like Bika, Al?
Well, he'll have his choice because there's so many now lightweights that want to fight him. Now, he technically is mandatorily has to defend against the winner of Antonio Parabon, who he beat for the vacant title, and James DeGale, the fighter from
Yes.
England, who I just did his fight. To keep his title, he has to fight the winner of that fight.
Right.
So we'll see if he can sneak in a defense before that. So anyway, that was our first fight, and then Erislandy Lara and Austin Trout. I made the comment during the broadcast, and I'm curious if you agree, that I could not understand why Austin Trout would cede the high ground to Lara by getting himself completely out of character and deciding he was going to be the aggressor before he was even made to be the aggressor.
Right. I agree with you, and I thought the other comment was very poignant. The fact that he was fighting short. I mean, here's a guy who's a taller fighter by stature, and he didn't take advantage of his height at all. Lara, I remember I was at the Lara Angulo fight, and I thought Angulo really muscled him, knocked him down a couple of times. But Lara has pinpoint precision with his punches, and I thought I was a little disappointed in this fight. I thought it would have been more of a slugfest, but it was really two defensive fighters, two counterpunchers, and you had, as you said very astutely, Trout was fighting a very aggressive fight when normally he's the guy who's counterpunching, right? I mean,
he just doesn't know how to do it. And I think the problem is you can't turn a fighter into that in one training camp. It's just not going to happen. And it didn't turn out to be as exciting. Now, the interesting thing is, of course, if you put Erislandy Lara in with another aggressive fighter that knows how to be aggressive, you're going to end up with an exciting fight. So it is all about stuff.
Right. Where does he go next? Who does? I'm always curious about where these guys go next.
Good question. Lara, to me, I think people would like. I'd love to see him fight Canelo Alvarez. I don't know if Canelo Alvarez wants to fight him, but Dan, wouldn't you like to see that fight?
Absolutely. That's exactly where I was going. I would love to see that matchup. That would be something that I think you get back into that bull and matador type of style that really suits Lara.
Yeah, and I think it would end up being a very exciting fight, and they could fill an arena with that. That's for sure. Dan, let us know when there's any questions that you want to pop on with us or give us.
Absolutely. I think we're just we're doing great. Go ahead and finish your.
All right.
I'll get them in here.
Now the other, of course, there was the other fight that was intriguing, in my opinion, was Sean Porter and Devin Alexander, who I thought Sean Porter was certainly a live dog in this fight, and I thought he would give Devin Alexander a very good fight. I didn't really expect Alexander to be sucked into fighting exactly the fight that Porter wanted him to.
Right, no, I agree with you. And also, it was very apparent for me watching on television, I wasn't there, Sean Porter looked substantially larger than Devin Alexander. Devin looked really small compared to this guy. He looked, in terms of bulk. Now,
one of the points I didn't probably make as well as I should have on the broadcast was that we've mentioned it, but Sean Porter came down. He used to be, when he was an amateur, he was 165 pounds, even though he's 5'6", because he played football in high school.
Oh, I see. Oh, that explains.
So he was the bigger man, really.
Yeah. Well, I never quite understood. One day you'll have to explain this to me. How you can go into a weigh-in, meet the weight for the fight, and then gain another 20 pounds, the day before the fight.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. Yeah.
Speaking of the weight, Al, one of our questions that did come in has to do with the Durrell fight, and one of the viewers want to know if you think that Durrell's performance suffered because of a challenge of him making weight.
Well, he did make the weight, and so I don't think it did. He'd never been 12 rounds before, and I think part of it might have been that too. That a little later in the fight, he had kind of a hard time sustaining the pace that he wanted. But I don't think the weight had too much to do with it. Okay. So and of course the performance that he gave, as Art pointed out, in spots looked really, really good. And the Durrell boys are very talented fighters. His brother Andre, who told us he's going to have some kind of an announcement in January to get back in the ring. It's been so long since we've seen him. He very talented young man, but he too is about 30 years old, as is Anthony. So their biological boxing clock is ticking a little bit.
I have another question for both of you gentlemen. How did you guys think the judging was tonight?
Art, I'll let you handle it first.
Well, on the Durrell fight, I thought it was off because I thought he won the fight. So I wasn't particularly pleased about that. I think in the Trout fight, it was correct. And I also think in the Devin Alexander fight it was correct. And Malignaggi, I saw no objection. He dominated Zab Judah. Zab Judah may have been mesmerized by Pauli Malignaggi's shorts. I'm not sure.
and Pauli had a little malfunction, didn't he? A costume malfunction that we've become accustomed to. I thought his shorts were going to fall down. I was more concerned about that at that point than any of his punches. But it was a brilliant performance, really, by Pauli, I thought, overall. But
I think that's the first.
Yeah, we're back to the judging. I knew there was a question in there somewhere. I knew there was a question, Dan. I just forgot what it was. I agree with Howard. I thought the judging in general was right on. Now, some might look at the 116-110 score. I think it was in the Bika fight, and Bika was one of my. And I get that one, might feel a little bit out of, out in the. Was it 116-110 Bika, or was it?
I think it was.
Yeah. And that one was a little out there, but no, that was 116-110 for Durrell, I think.
Was it? Yeah, I don't recall.
But some of this, but other than that fight. The fact is, I agree that the judges were pretty much right on in these fights, and the last three I thought were pretty clear in terms of the way they went. They were fairly one-sided. Although I had Alexander, I think, winning 4 rounds in the fight.
Yeah, that was quite disappointing. I got to say, I expected more out of him. He didn't, but I think he was bullied. This guy Sean Porter really pushed him around the ring, and I got to say, he was very aggressive. And landed some big punches. I was impressed. I hadn't seen him fight before, Al. It's the first time I've really seen Sean Porter.
Of course, yeah. Good fighter. And didn't it look eerily similar to the Tim Bradley, Devin Alexander fight?
Absolutely, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the question, I always have the question, where do they go next? Who's going to fight? Who is Sean Porter going to fight next? Where's he going?
Well, I'll tell you one possible fight for him would be against Pauli Malignaggi, who just won who just won a welterweight fight. Though I think Malignaggi will look for bigger game. But Porter, there's a lot. I'll tell you what. Here's a fight. How about Keith Thurman if he beats Jesus Soto Caras, taking on Sean Porter for a welterweight championship?
Wow, well,
that'd be a good one.
It would be Keith Thurman
or Caras if he wins against Thurman.
Yeah, Thurman's a monster. Really,
I think he is. Yeah, do you like Keith Thurman a lot?
I do, and I think he's a big physical fighter. Yeah,
he is, and can box as well as punch. And I actually feel like he could be the cream of the crop in the welterweight division, other than Floyd Mayweather. And of course, there's the Bradleys and the Marquezes who are. Marquez is older, clearly, and Pacquiao's older. Bradley's not, but I think. In the boxing politics makes it hard for a guy like Bradley to face somebody like Thurman, but I think Thurman could end up being maybe even a challenger at some point for Mayweather if he continues to develop.
I think aside from Showtime being the winner tonight, I think Al Heyman had all 4 winners, didn't he? Did the Heyman group?
I believe his name was mentioned, which it frequently is on these broadcasts. Yes, usually sometimes after God, sometimes before God. when they decide to mention, even my pal Pauli, right, who finally went with Al Heyman. He said, I got to do what I got to do. But I think you won all of them.
If it leads to bigger fights and a bigger purse, why not? But
that was his theory. Wasn't the thing Pauli said at the end about the neighborhoods in Brooklyn, because those neighborhoods have been, for the most part, racially divided, and there were times when those neighborhoods were not so friendly, right, to each other.
Right.
I thought, I thought that was particularly eloquent.
Yes, I thought so too.
My apologies.
Oh, that's okay. If it's the Kremlin, answer that phone.
If that's Al Heyman, tell him it was Al Bernstein who said that about.
Exactly. That's right. So there were a lot of thank yous to him. That's for sure. Now what I thought was intriguing also about the Sean Porter fight and the Devin Alexander fight was that Alexander was absolutely convinced, as was Kevin Cunningham, his trainer, they would be able to counterpunch better against Sean Porter as he came in. But he just wasn't able to do that. And Porter was able to give him the kind of head movement and get inside and control the geography of that match in a way that I think they were really shocked at.
Yes. Was it a full house, Al?
It was. I'll tell you what was strange, and I don't know if you could tell on television. They were subdued. There wasn't as much energy for the fighters as I thought there might be. So that part was a little surprising to me, but it was a big crowd, as well as you would expect. And the thing about Berkeley Center that's really good is the fact that it's become a location, a destination for boxing, because the number of cards have been here, and it's almost like, you know, you have a show business background, and you get this completely. It's like having a place that you have a theater subscription, and everyone doesn't know all the shows that are coming in. But if they see a show they like, even if they don't know the other show, they say, well, these all have been pretty good shows, so I think I'll go to the next one. That's kind of what's happening here with boxing. Even if one card is like of real interest to them, if there's another one, they say, well, I've seen good ones here, so I'll come back for the next one.
What do you like personally as a destination, Al? Do you have a favorite in terms of?
You know, yeah, I'll tell you, I like this place. I think it's very good. San Antonio is a terrific place for boxing. We're going to be there next week. The fans down there are great. I guess it's now the StubHub Center, right? Right. Was the Home Depot Center. Is a great venue for. Now, I'm one of those people that normally say boxing was not meant to be outdoors, right? It's an indoor sport. And for the most part, I don't like it to be outdoors, because I don't really understand why you would put something outdoors where the elements could play a role in a sport like this. However, that is a fantastic venue when the weather is nice. And you've been there, of course, for many times. You know.
Yeah, I love it, especially when the weather is nice.
Yeah, you're right. When it's a little chilly out or it's rainy, not so perfect. Well, that's the place where I uttered one of my great faux pas in life. We were there for a fight, and it was rainy, and I came on the air, and I was going to say something about the crowd and how there's a great boxing crowd that brave the elements, and I said, you know, they're great fans that come out here to the Home Box Office Center. That was less than perfect. But luckily, I'm still working at Showtime, which is up here. But see, I know you, and you know famous people at Showtime and CBS, so I'm good for another year, I think, Art. You can speak up for me, you know.
Well, I would always do that, Al. You know.
Hey, welcome to everybody. If you're just joining us here on this Hangout, our first post-fight Hangout that we're doing. I hope all of you, whether you're joining us on Google Plus or you're joining us on YouTube, send us a question, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have for us. So send it along, and Dan will correlate them and pass them on to us. This was a night of boxing that, even though it went oh, by the way, I should ask, and I don't know if you guys are aware, I have not been able to see it. What happened in the other fights this evening? I didn't watch them. Cappy, I believe, was beating. Lost to Kirkland. I think I saw that.
Kirkland won a sixth round TKO. Really, pretty much dominated that fight from bell to bell. Yeah, it wasn't that close. And then the other one was
Rigondeaux and Agbeko.
And you know what happened in that fight. You don't even have to.
I don't even have to ask you, do I? Rigondeaux outboxed him for 12 rounds, right?
I have to tell you one of the great quotes of the night on the internet, on Twitter. One of my favorites of the night was, I think it was the 8th round or something, and somebody said, my score right now is Rigo 80, Atlantic City 79 people.
Oh my! Okay.
Yeah, there was a few holes in the crowd there.
Not too many. What's the old line? There was a fat person stuck in the turnstiles, huh?
Yeah.
Al, did you think there was any favorite? Where was the crowd going tonight between Malignaggi and Judah?
I think they were mixed. You know, I think it was pretty well divided. But again, I was surprised. Actually, they were kind of subdued. But I think it was pretty 50-50. It might have been a slight edge to Pauli. But and I saw Pauli, by the way, just before I came over here to do this. I went in his dressing room, and he was laying on the table getting his eye attended to because of that clash of heads, which was a bad break for both of them early in the fight. Yeah. And his spirits were very high, and he looked at me. I said, hey, congratulations. He said, well, it looks like I'm going to have to moonlight for a little while now. Because I think if he'd lost this fight, he would have become a broadcaster full-time and not done any more boxing.
What was his purse tonight, Al?
You know? He made $600,000.
And Judah? What did Judah get?
Judah made $400,000. So, which is interesting. So obviously it was very effective. And now, Paulie hopes to fight the winner of Broner and Maidana.
I mean, would Broner, if Broner wins that fight, which I'm not sure he will, is he interested in fighting Pauli again?
Well, it's a good question. I think you could make that fight, given the fact that it was so close. And I said on the broadcast today, Brian Kenny mentioned it to me in the Open. I told him earlier that I reviewed the Broner-Pauli fight 4 or 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon?
I heard you say that.
Yeah, and I said that I thought it was a draw or Pauli won the fight, having looked at it again. So I think you could sell that fight. The more intriguing one, though, is if Maidana wins.
Yes.
How interesting is that? Because you have, even stylistically, again, we're back to styles, right?
Yes, right.
Maidana is, of course, a come-ahead fighter, good puncher and everything.
Yes.
But everything about he and Pauli bespeaks an interesting match, especially with the more stationary Pauli, who doesn't move quite as much, who throws lots of combinations. I could see that being a fascinating and hellacious fight.
Yes, I agree.
And because Marcos Maidana comes in, it makes Pauli's punches a little more powerful as you're throwing them. So, not that he's going to knock him out necessarily, but so that would be an interesting matchup as well.
Mm-hmm. Now that we're talking about those two guys, what do you think? Just a little prediction for next week. What do you think?
Well, I think it's going to be a very good fight, and I think that Broner is going to be tested severely by Marcos Maidana. The big question is, when you fight short against Broner, this was Pauli's issue, he's able to, he's that straight erect style, and he's able to pot shot you as you come in. And that's my only concern that Maidana fights short, but Maidana has a terrific overhand right.
Yes.
And when you can land that punch against Broner, and you're a more powerful puncher like Maidana is, we have no idea whether Adrian Broner can take a punch, can't take a punch. We just don't know. He's never really been hit by a hard-punching welterweight. Paul is not a big puncher. He had a hard time getting into the head. He mostly landed body shots. Ponce de Leon, who was coming up from, 126, he faced Broner and gave him trouble, but he was not a powerful fighter. It was a close fight. It could have gone either way. So we don't even know what Broner will do when he's hit by a power puncher.
Right. They talked about fights coming up. They talked about the Johnny Gonzalez Abner Mares fight, but they didn't mention where it was going to be. Do we know?
I believe that's going to be in your neck of the woods, out in L.A.
Really?
It's not definite, but I believe it's going to be out there.
And how about Canelo in March? Where is that?
That will be in Las Vegas, and they don't have an opponent yet for him, but it'll be in Las Vegas. So, an interesting beginning of the year coming up, and of course, first we'll have next week where we have, as you mentioned, Broner, Maidana, and also Keith Thurman against Jesus Soto Caras, which we talked about, and that should be a really intriguing fight as we. So, a big performance tonight by Pauli, and a surprising upset win by Sean Porter this evening. So it was a really fascinating evening to me because we didn't have quite as much action as we would have liked, but I think some of the results were intriguing, and certainly the Porter with Alexander, that fight, and the Bika Durrell fight had enough action in those fights to make it, intriguing.
Yes.
So let me ask you. Since I have you here, I want to ask you a little bit about the Undisputed Champion Network that you are a co-founder of.
Yes.
You're going to be providing boxing content for boxing fans. How does that going to work, and where will that programming be distributed?
Well, we're part of it's called TV4 Entertainment, and there are several channels attributed to that network. One is they have it's called the All Warrior Network, which is a military channel. They have a documentary channel, and then of course our boxing channel, and it'll be seen on Hulu and on Amazon, and there may be some other platforms to be announced in the next couple of weeks. And we're doing original programming, and we're looking for, as you know, content, existing content. We can only help promote the boxing channel if we could find a way we could do something together with you and that group. We'd love to be in business. But it's exciting. We're looking to be partnering up with some creative directors who've got some ideas about boxing and like to bring in some younger audiences. One of the shows we're talking about is doing what's the relationship between music and boxing? Mm-hmm. Why is there always this incredible symbiotic relationship between boxers and musicians and music, and how does it affect culture? How does it affect clothing, style, songs? And there's also something very interesting that's happening, Al. I'm not, as you know, I'm not a big fan of MMA. I'll probably get crucified on this chat for saying that. But
we won't let them get the art.
No, we're finding guys like Joel Diaz and Freddie Roach are now training MMA guys to learn how to punch, because those guys, they realize once they get into their cages, if they could throw a punch, they've got a big advantage over their opponent. So trying to find some connection between boxing and MMA and see if we could create some interest. You know, there is existing interest, but find something more of a connection where boxing plays a role in the sport of MMA.
Yeah, and I think you're right. They're getting a lot of the trainers, and part of the problem for mixed martial artists too is sometimes they can't throw those punches as effectively as they'd like, because there are other consequences when they throw punches, and so
Right.
They want to do it as best they can, but they also have to be mindful of other things. So, but that's interesting. But well, it sounds like you're going to have a very varied palette of material.
Yes.
And that's good to know, because I think that's part of what boxing needs, is to have different kind of shows that will bring it to different demographics.
Well, what we'd also like to do is take the curtain down. You know, MMA has done something very significant in that it's transparent. You get to read about it a lot. You get to see it. It's everywhere. Boxing is kind of still behind the curtains. You know, there's all sorts of intrigue and Kabbalah and, you know, the relationships between, you know, the groups that we know that are in the Cold War at the moment. We'd like to make it a little more open and exposed so that people feel they're more connected to the sport. We're going to try and do it. Whether we succeed or not is another question, but that's the goal.
Very good. That's great programming, and you'll be on these Google Hangouts and elsewhere talking about it as we continue on. And the other thing that I was pleased to participate in that you're involved in was USIBA, the United States Intercollegiate Boxing Association. I was there for the show that featured in LA at the LA Athletic Club that featured not just UCLA and USC, but a bunch of different collegiate athletes in the Night of the Rivals. Mm-hmm. And that was a great event, and I was thrilled to be there for that. And
well, we're very excited.
Collegiate boxing, but it's a great sport.
Well, it's collegiate boxing. You know, as you know, it used to be an NCAA sport. I'm in favor of as many different leagues as there are. It just brings more people to the sport. Young people who can attend college and secure a scholarship and box at the same time is a great thing. I mean, basketball and football are attracting great athletes throughout the country, and I think if athletes knew they had opportunities to get scholarships, they might go into boxing. And they don't now, the great athletes, because they know they could pursue another sport and get their education covered. So, and it serves a wonderful purpose, and I think the kids that are involved and the universities that are involved are deeply committed to it. And we're delighted, Al, that you're putting your weight behind it and supporting us. It means a great deal to us.
Well, it's great. Thank you, and I think it's terrific, and I had a great time at the event, and I urge everybody to support intercollegiate boxing. It's good for the sport. It's good for those kids that are involved in it, and for the institutions too. And I think even some of them, though it's not NCAA sanctioned. I talked to a number of the coaches, and they're getting a little more support from their schools, which is excellent. Right. So, and we'll be on for a couple more minutes. So I want to let everybody know if you want to send us a question or whatever. We can we'll entertain it. Dan, do you have any other questions that you want us to entertain?
I do, Al. I've got a question here, and this actually came up a couple of times tonight. Not only as a question, but also on the Twitter feed tonight. A lot of people want to know if Amir Khan being on the broadcast team is a tip that he might be the next opponent for Floyd Mayweather.
Well, I mean, they're talking about it. He was pretty coy, wasn't he, in his interview with Brian Kenny? It was interesting.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, I think he's obviously, it's pretty apparent, and I don't have the inside info on this, but it's pretty apparent that he's the guy that they're looking at from the Mayweather team. And I understand some people may have mixed emotions one way or the other about it, yay or nay, but I think they see him as a big name that they would like to fight, and I think their feeling is that because he brings a certain skill set to the ring, that they can sell this as, you know, Mayweather Amir Khan having some of the same skill sets that Mayweather does, which he does. The question they have to get past, of course, is whether people will see Khan as a true challenger to Mayweather. But nobody's been a true challenger to Mayweather, so my guess is that chances are that that's probably going to happen. Can I become the ambassador to the UN with that answer?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know what? I really don't know, but I'm just assuming that it's probably he's probably going to do it. But it was fun to work with Amir tonight, and he had a good time. He's a very nice young man. I've always had a good rapport with him, and I think he's a nice young fellow.
Did his pants match his blazer? His blazer was a leather blazer.
He did have a pretty snappy outfit on, didn't he? Yeah, the coat. Yes, Brian Kenny said at the outset of the show, his suit wins, which probably did, especially to a certain demographic. I may wear that next week, though, I think.
I'd love to see you in it. I'd love to see you in it, Al.
Yeah, I think we're going to try that. Any other questions, Dan, that we need to answer?
I think we lost most of the East Coast, and they went to bed at the end of.
Well, yeah, it's been, right, exactly, because it's a little bit late. Well, hey, this was fun to do, and Art, I appreciate you joining us for this boxing hangout.
Thank you.
And I appreciate it. We're going to have the Art back on many, many times in the future if he feels like joining us. And this way you get to spend the whole evening with me. You watch me on TV, and then we talk here. And you'll go to bed saying, you know what, I don't think I need to hear Al again for a little while.
Not until next week.
Not until next week. There you go. Hey, Art, thank you very much.
Thank you, Al. Thank you.
Dan, we're going to be back, of course, next week after the Adrian Broner Marcos Maidana fight, and with another Google Hangout. We may try and even do one during the week if we can. For all the folks that are watching now, obviously it's a new endeavor by us. We're doing this hopefully as an ongoing, not hopefully, it will be an ongoing thing. And Dan, you've done a great job of organizing all this, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. And don't forget, everyone, if you're on YouTube, so subscribe. There's a subscribe button up there. Make sure you subscribe, and that way you'll be notified every time we go live, and you'll be ready and ahead of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll be giving you guys all kinds of heads up on Twitter and on Facebook and everywhere else about the next one of our Hangouts. So take care, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed the fights, and we'll talk to you. And Art, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Al. See you soon. Take care.
All right, take care.
All right,
Thanks,
bye,
guys.
everybody.
Thank
Catch you next time.